Now, one thing that you may not be aware of or just simply not understand is that during this coronavirus outbreak, I've been bombarded with questions such as why the hell and what the hell does it mean when the central banks of the world are cutting interest rates, and how do markets and stocks crashing affect my day-to-day life? And I know you may be thinking, why the hell should I care about it? It's not my company. You may be thinking, I don't run a business, it's got nothing to do with me. But if you just stick with me and let me break it down for you, you're going to see why this will affect you a lot more than you may think. And again, it's my strong opinion that more people are going to be affected by the crash than the virus itself. That's why I'm trying to get the message out there, and that's why I'm breaking it down for you. Now, I know all this stuff may seem really confusing when you watch it on the news, and that's the thing that pisses me off, because it doesn't really need to be confusing at all. It really is simple. So let me just simply break it down right here. Our society and economies all rely on simple transactions. The simple buying and selling and the exchange of money for products and services. Now, I know you may be thinking that you hear the word markets all the time, and this may lead you to think, what the hell even is a market? All a market simply is a place where people go to buy and sell a product or service. Exactly like a market stall, just picture it like that. You can go to a fish market, a fruit market, a gold market, a stock market. If you can buy and sell it, then you have what we call a market for it. Take the stock market for example. All the stock market is a place where you go to buy and sell stocks or shares of a company. That is it. And all these transactions in all of these markets is what makes up our economy. It is as simple as that. All the transactions in all the markets is what makes the economy. And because our economy is simply made up by day-to-day transactions, this means the total amount of spending is what drives the economy. Now, one of the biggest buyer and sellers is a country's government, which is made up of the central government, the one we tend to see on the news, and the central bank of that country, such as the Federal Reserve in the United States and the Bank of England in the United Kingdom. Now, I've already covered the history all about central banks and governments, so if you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that video out. But to quickly sum up, what the main job of the central bank is to control the amount of money in the economy. And I know you may be thinking, why the hell does someone need to control the amount of money in our economy? And they do this by controlling interest rates and printing money. Let me show you the reasons why. Now, the central banks control the interest rate, and what the interest rate controls is the incentive of people borrowing money. When people in the economy are spending more, this increases other people's income. Because again, if we look back down on the market level, if people are buying more fish, then the fishmonger's income rises because he's selling more fish, because more people are spending money. And as his income rises, he is seen as more creditworthy by banks and lenders to repay back any money that he borrows. And remember, how do banks make their money? By lending money. So as there is more spending in the economy, people's incomes rise and they become more creditworthy, which leads to banks and lenders to be happy to lend more money to people, which causes more money to be spent in the economy, and this is what causes growth and expansion in the markets and economies. But with this increased amount of spending and demand for products and services, this can lead to prices of goods and services to rise, as it's harder for the production of products to keep up with the demand. And this is what leads to inflation and prices to rise. Take the fish market for example. Let's say the fishmonger catches 50 fish each time he goes out to sea. And these are all the fishes he has to sell for a week. And out of them 50 fishes, he sells 25 every single week. Him knowing this allows him to forecast that he has about 2 weeks before he has to go out and catch more fish. But as there is more spending in the market and more spending in the economy and incomes are rising, people are spending more and buying more fish, which leads to an increase in sales for him, and instead of selling 25 fishes per week, he now sells 50 fishes a week. Now instead of fishing once a week, he now has to go out twice a week, which costs him time and money, and as the supply of fish begins to fall much lower than the demand, this causes the prices of fish to rise. And with increased spending, this is what happens in all markets. And that's why we see a rise in prices and inflation. Now the central bank doesn't want too much inflation as it can cause problems. So that's why a central bank would increase a country's interest rate, as this means it will cost more for people to borrow money, as they will have higher debt repayments and fewer people can afford it. And this will then have an opposite effect on spending. Less people will borrow money, meaning less spending in the economy, which leads to decreased incomes, which decreases prices and causes a contraction in the economy. And this is what is known as deflation, the opposite of inflation. And as less transactions occur, and with the contraction of the economy, this is what ultimately leads to a recession. Now, if the recession seems to have a larger than anticipated impact on the economy and all the inflation is under control, then the central bank will decrease interest rates to stimulate the economy back up again, which again encourages more people to borrow, more people to spend, which leads to more incomes and which leads to more transactions in the markets, which drives a growing economy. And as you can see, it's a cycle. The central bank basically has to manipulate the interest rates to keep it nice and flowing. But as we can see here, if we look at the S&P 500 and a lot of other markets, we can see that the markets are falling. So what have the majority of central banks done? That's right, they have lowered interest rates to try and stimulate the economy back up again. And this is perfectly normal, and this is how the economic machine works. Now, as we can see, the coronavirus has really shifted investors' mindsets and installed fear into the society, which is what is causing these massive sell-offs and drops in markets and economies. I mean, the virus itself has severely affected the airline industry as travel bans are being put into place, and less demand for international travel is one of the reasons how the virus affected the airline Flybe. And what we can also see is that many other airlines are asking governments for financial aid through these turbulent times. And we can evidently see this by viewing the stock prices plummet of these companies. I mean, just a couple of days ago, Emirates announced that they're grounding all flights, and Emirates is a massive airline. And the reason why I'm more concerned about the markets falling than the virus itself is that it may come down to the fact that after we've all survived this pandemic, millions of people may be out of a job as companies are shutting down and the economy contracts, money becomes scarce, unemployment is through the roof, and people find it hard to survive. This is an important thing that we need to prepare for, especially if you're an employee. And now, after breaking this all down, we can see how markets crashing can affect our personal lives. Now, it's too early to predict what the exact consequences are going to be after all this clears up. And no matter what anyone says, nobody can predict what will happen. But the one thing to really keep an eye on is to see that now that central banks have slashed the interest rates to basically zero, will this reassure investors that all is good? What if 0% interest rates are not enough to stimulate the economy back up again? Are we at the point where there is no going back? Because if it doesn't and the sell-off continues, then this may lead us from an economic recession to an economic depression, which will lead to central banks having to enter a process called quantitative easing, which is a fancy word for printing money, which we are scarily starting to see banks already do now. Now, like I said, I'll be making a part 2 all about the coronavirus impact on the global economy. Think of this as an introduction because you need to understand these key concepts in order to understand how the markets will affect your life. And in part 2, I'll be sharing how you can protect and prepare yourself for this, and how, even more interestingly, you can even potentially make money from these turbulent times. And I'm going to end this video on one final note. I want you to stay calm. Yes, these are definitely unprecedented times, and I can understand that it is scary out there in the world today, but it is imperative that you stay rational and level-headed in times like these. Listen to what your health authorities are saying. Remember, your health is one of the biggest assets that you have. If you need to self-isolate, self-isolate. Avoid mass gatherings, wash your hands, stock up on food and essentials, but don't be a dick about it. Trust in our governments, something I rarely would ever say, to do what needs to be done. And also trust in our people, our nurses, our doctors and our scientists to help us and the world put an end to this pandemic. I can assure you it will be over before we know it. So just stay calm. Otherwise, these are times where if you're so busy panicking about what the hell's going on, you will miss out on once in a lifetime opportunities that the economy provides you, such as investment and business opportunities. So during these times of quarantine and lockdown, instead of maybe binge watching Netflix, maybe try educating and learn about what you can do to prepare yourself. Maybe look at starting a business, or maybe try look at new investment opportunities, because if things do go to the shit, then I'm guessing you will regret not using this time to prepare yourself from it. And like I said, I'll be making a second video on how to prepare yourself soon. Whether that's starting a business, whether that's looking at investment opportunities, don't worry about that, I've got you. I'll be making all that in the next video. But for now, make sure you check out on some similar content on the channel, from the study and history of central banks and governments to crashes and fundamentals of booms and busts. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the channel, and to all our loyal subscribers, we are glad you are here. We aim to produce at least one high quality animated video per week, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any golden knowledge. I'll see you soon.